right, Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahak for the spirit to do this lesson. Double honors to the elders in the great millstone. Guru well, peace, and blessings to the hopeful elect. Shalom to the men of the Lord, prophesying, preaching, and teaching on the highways and byways in sincerity and in truth. Shalom. Barakathum, Barakathum. And I want to get a quick lesson on prophecy. And I'm going to start in Revelation 13 real quick, just so the Akim can understand the context of an article that I'm going to read called Techno Feudalism is Taking Over Capitalism. All right. And why is that important? That's important because these names that you hear that you may or may not have heard of before, this in other words is basically the beast system, the infrastructure. This is the means by which a very, very, very important prophecy is going to take place very soon. And you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who are the Israelites, the true Israelites, the elect among you, need to hear this, and it's our job to watch, to put this information out there. So brothers can either be edified or notified, and this system, man, it's so wicked, that Yahweh Shai is gonna have to return. Think about out of all the shit that we went through, including chattel slavery, getting raped, robbed, murdered, tortured, and it wasn't then the Most High didn't even then the Most High didn't see fit to come back and save us. So that should tell you how much worse we are off now, because the earth is getting ready to be completely well, it's already been flipped upside down, but Esau is getting very, very close physically to grabbing this place. Now we know that it's not written that he will, but you can see how far off the rails this thing has gotten. And I'm going to start at Revelation 13. I'll start at 11. It says, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." Now we, for brothers who followed this before, we know that beast coming up out of the earth is a reincarnation of the Roman Empire, which is today, present day, NATO, led by America, also known as the whore of Babylon, written about in the scriptures. Okay, the seat of the beast, which is physically America. All right, so this beast coming up out of the earth, it says, and it had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Now that represents the dichotomous nature, the duopoly, the duality nature of this American system, this NATO system. You have the left, right, Democrat, Republican. You have two branches of the military. Sorry, Salakia, two branches of the government, in voting. All right. You have red and blue, and ultimately, they're that dragon. All right, which is also known as the beast, is also known as the dragon that spake as a lamb. When you read Daniel, I believe it's Daniel chapter 7 or 8, where it says his look was more stout than his fellows. All right, and that look goes into a vision because he was spitting the most game to you other nations. All right, talking about his freedom over here. All right, talking about this the land of the free, land of the brave. You can be anything you want to be. You have something called the American dream. All right, you have rights. Everybody can be treated equally. All of these things he spoke to you other nations while hypocritically enslaving the righteous. Okay, so that's part of that goes into it. In other words, America talks a big game, but they're full of shit. All right. I usually say I'm not gonna keep lessons that long, but I'm gonna go in as much as I can on this one because prophecy is important, man. It's not something to be taken lightly, and this is the means by which we're going to get out of here. So us understanding it is important. It says, verse 12, and he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and that first beast before him was basically the Roman Empire. All right, to give you a brief timeline, around 400 A.D. is when the Roman Empire fell. Now, if you know about history, the Roman Empire before 400 AD was already split into an Eastern and a Western kingdom. All right, you had Eastern kingdoms who were predominantly Jake, men of color, as they would say, who predominantly spoke Greek. And then you had the Western Roman Empire, who were the Edomites, who predominantly spoke Latin. All right. Now, when it says the fall of Rome, that beast is talking about the Western Roman Empire, because around 400 and something AD, the city of Rome got sacked. All right, by what they call the barbarians. Once that happened, Esau, from the year 400 AD all the way up to around the 1400s, then you had something what Esau calls the Dark Ages, but really that was just when Rome, the city of Rome, got sacked, and the whole region just fell into shit, into darkness. All right, and Jake was ruling the rest of Europe and other parts of Europe. Okay, well, really all of Europe, because they came over. There wasn't any more houses. There was no kings and queens. Their infrastructure basically crumbled once Rome got sacked. So that's that first beast. All right. It says, and he calls it the earth, and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. Now I just went into how that deadly wound came about, which is when they went down. All right. Um, and that deadly wound was healed, and that's talking about them coming back in the Renaissance era. All right. So from 400 to about year 1400, roughly. All right, that's the period of which they went down around the 1400s. That's when they came back, and you have something called the Renaissance era, which is the rebirth. All right, and what happened during the rebirth? It was all based out of Rome, out of Italy, Florence, all of these different popes, especially Alexander the sixth Pope of Rome, also known as Rodrigo Borgias. All right, started with him and his family. They started coming back and and uh, and redoing everything, man. Commissioning art pieces. You got something called statues of David. They started reworking all the faces of the saints. They did something called iconoclasm on a massive scale. All right, that's whose deadly wound was healed, and that's them coming back, and that was the beginning of basically white supremacy. This is when Esau started just subjugating everybody that didn't look like him. Okay, it says, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Now this is going on from the time of World War I all the way through World War II, all the way up until today. You had him inventing the atomic bomb, which is nuclear technology. All right, he drops it on Japan. He does drone strikes today. He constantly surveils. His power is in the air, which is why he's often referred to as a dragon, or he's referred to as an eagle. All right, oftentimes, because that's where his might is, through the spirit. All right, it says, and he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. All right, now this is where we get into the article, because that those miracles that we're in that time now, okay, the internet, all of these different things, these different technologies he's coming up with, he's getting ready to make you a giant sales pitch on why you should take, the MOTB. All right, and he's getting ready to set the stage. He's going to make sure you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are in the weakest state possible. No family, no father, no anything. You're in the weakest state possible to prime you up so you don't have a choice. He's gonna destroy small businesses, which he's done with lockdowns. He's gonna tell women that they're mightier than men, that they can have their cake and eat it too. So there's strife and contention. He's gonna completely uh, undermine the food supply. Basic things like nutrients are not going to be readily available. You can't even get food. Most people get their food from farms trucked in from hundreds of miles away and don't grow their own food. All right. He set up school systems to basically indoctrinate children. Up is down and left is right. So this is the stage that he set. So when he comes in, because of all the problems that he caused, he's gonna come in with the ultimate solution. That's the MOTB. All right. So that's just a rundown of where we are. All right. Um, he says, verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And that image is going to be this new one world government, which is basically the reincarnation of Rome, because Rome always intended, the Roman Empire always intended to go overseas, to conquer everything, you know, and basically to take the blessing. All right. Now he's reinvented himself, you know, uh, very deceptively after World War II. By he's formed all these global entities. That's where the UN, the United Nations, came about. The Bank of International Settlements came about. The International Monetary Fund came about. The World Bank, World Health Organization. All right, all of these things are these global entities, and when you look into it, you see that financially they're funded by the whore, which is America. And the next closest ones that fund it are other Edomite countries throughout Europe. Okay, so that's how we get here. It says techno feudalism is taking over. It says this is how capitalism ends, not with the revolutionary bang, but with an evolutionary whimper, just as it displaced feudalism gradually, surreptitiously, until one day the bulk of human relations were market based and feudalism was swept away. So capitalism today is being toppled by a new economic mode, techno feudalism. Now that word techno is very important because we know he's got us jacked into the internet. Most of you are addicted to social media. All right. You're addicted to all types of things on the internet. There are people with porn addictions. It's porn and social media and mindless content, videos on YouTube, Netflix, or whatever. That's what's going on the internet, the bulk of the activity. All right. He's got you locked into that, and he's got something called the Internet of Things that can connect into the internet. Has everything connected. Everything's connected to everything now. Electrical grids. There was a hack onto infrastructure recently by some hackers, and all hell broke loose. Everyone panicked because the water supply is connected to the internet, the electrical grids. All right, sewage. All right, everything is set on the stage. So that word techno is very very important because what he wants to do is convert us into a robot, basically a form of it. He wants to track us and put us into his cloud system, which is basically a giant uh, effort to collect your data. All right, and he uses things like AI, like machine learning, like a computer that can teach itself, or a computer that can teach another computer, and it's self-learning, and it has this robust intelligence because he wants to be the Most High. You know, it says this large claim that comes on the heels of many premature forecasts of capitalism's demise, especially from the left, but this time it may well be true. It says the clues have been visible for a while: bond and share prices. Now, a bond is a form of debt, and a share price is basically a metric of valuation. It tells you how much a company or a investment is worth. All right. It says which should be moving in sharply opposite directions have been skyrocketing in unison. All right. So everything's out of whack in this financial system. So Keep the word techno in mind and feudalism in mind. Now, I'm going to actually get the word feudalism so we know we have a complete understanding on that. All right. Feudalism, it's a dominant social system in medieval Europe in which the nobilities held lands from the crown in exchange for military service, and vassals were in turn tenants of the nobles, while the peasants were obliged to live on the lord's land and give them homage, labor, and share of the produce, notionally in exchange for military protection. Now that's not that far off of how the scriptures had it, because you had the 12 lands and you had 12 rulers of each house. All right, and then you had the king who set up over all of that and would judge and rule over all of that, and then you had the Levites spread out through all those 12 to make sure that the law was kept and that the priestly duties were being done. All right, and but it was all, righteous, set up on the side of the Most High. But see, Esau's getting ready to set up a version of it that's about to be wicked as hell, because this democracy thing does not work, man. It's confusion. You got a bunch of niggas, or going to the voting booths trying to vote. You know, people questioning the election. They don't know if it's hacked or if or anything is going on. So he's about to revert back to this. All right. So it says perhaps the clearest sign is that something serious is afoot. Is on August 12th last year. On that day, we learned that even the first 7 months of 2020, the United Kingdom's national income tanked over 20% because of all the lockdowns and the what, well above even the direst predictions. A few minutes later, the London Stock Exchange jumped by more than 2%. Nothing comparable had ever occurred. Finance had become fully decoupled from the real economy. So how on earth do you have a record dive of revenue, yet the stock market jumped 2%? Because the rich are getting that much richer. It's basically a giant transfer of wealth. Now everybody sees that the money system is full of shit. The money itself is full of shit. All right. Let me get James 5:3. It says, your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. All right. Meaning when this thing, when this thing goes up, man, people are gonna lose their shirts, what they call on the stock market. You're all in on an investment on a particular crypto or a particular stock, and you seeing the price drop. That's how fast your shit is getting eaten up like a flame. You set a piece of paper on fire, and as fast as that fire it takes to devolve, that's how much you're gonna lose everything in terms of your worth, because ultimately this system, like the scriptures say, it's cankered. It's not worth what they're telling you that it's worth. And when it resets to its real value, which is basically zero, because Esau hasn't had you on the gold standard for 40 years, 50 years, man. Then people are gonna wild out, man. Hyperinflation is gonna set in. It says, ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. And that's very true, because Esau's been buying real assets. He's been digging tunnels underground. All right, buying weapons, military equipment, seizing your data, setting up satellites, all types of things to trap you and ensnare you. Locking down the land, because the real wealth is in land and labor, and he's taken all the land. You can't own land in America, and you're tricked, and he's duped you into continuing to work to pay him, only for you to be in more debt. Esau is spending more money than you can work off, and you idiots keep working. You know, and I say that because you really don't have a choice. You know, but that's the system that he set up. It says, behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth. And that's what I'm saying. We're the laborers. Even you, oh so-called Edomites, you other nations, you other Elamites who came over here to get rich off of Jake, you Moabites, all you other nations, now y'all are gonna be crying too. Y'all small businesses are getting shut down now. All right. He's duped everybody into working to working off of debt that he for money that he's spending. You know, what sense does it make that I take out a credit card in your name, I spend all the money, and then you have to work to pay it off? You can't ever win that way, man. All right. It says, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord Sabaoth. But this is mainly talking about the Israelites, because we're the ones most disproportionately affected by this. All right, by a long shot. You other nations don't start feeling any type of hardship until after Jake has had it. But see, now the script is being flipped. All right, the curses pursuant to Deuteronomy 30 and 7 are starting to fall on you niggas now, because y'all are the real niggas. You so-called white people, you Edomites, and the rest of you nations with them. James 5 and 5, ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in a day of slaughter, just like you feed a cow before you slaughter it, or a sheep, you know. You start feeding them more food and they get that fat. All right. That's you, Esau. You filled yourself up. It says, ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doeth not resist you. All right. Because we don't have anything. We can't do anything, man. Esau has to allow you to riot. Because if he wanted to bring the hammer on you, he would. You know. Let's read a little bit more of this. It says, that just showed you the whole money system is completely, it's complete witchcraft. Revenue dropping 20%, but then the stock market jumps 2%. That's wild, man. It says, but do these unprecedented develops really mean that we no longer live under capitalism? After all, capitalism has undergone from fundamental transformations before. Should we now simply prepare ourselves for its latest incarnation? No, I don't think so. What we are experiencing is not merely another metamorphosis of capitalism. It is something more profound and worrisome. And that's right. This thing is getting ready to flip, man. All right. It says, yes, capitalism has undergone extreme makeovers at least twice since the late 19th century. Its first major transformation from its competitive guise to oligopoly. Now, an oligopoly, and I'll get that too, is basically a system of a small group of individuals. You know, when a small group rules everything. All right. Oligopoly, it says a state of limited competition in which a market is shared by a small number of producers or sellers. All right. And right now, like, you basically have Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft. All right. They run Amazon. They run the entire. They run all of commerce. Okay. It says. Let me skip down. It says the end of Bretton Woods in 1971. Now, the Bretton Woods Agreement was basically the formation of the Bank of International Settlements. That's when you had all these different uh, uh, world organizations being created that I brought up earlier, International Monetary Fund, all of them, and that's when they gave the Fed the U.S. dollar, the global reserves currency status. Okay, it says as America's growing trade deficit became the world's provider of aggregate demand, sucking in the net exports of Germany, Japan, and later China, the U.S. powered capitalism's most energetic globalization phase with a steady flow of German, Japanese, and later Chinese profits back into Wall Street financing it all. All right. To play their role, however, Wall Street functionaries demanded emancipation from all of the New Deal and Bretton Woods constraints with deregulation, oligopolistic, Salakia, capitalism morphed into financialized capitalism. All right. So basically, what they're saying is this oligopoly basically turned into this new high finance system where you have a bunch of sneaky, greasy haired bankers, cutting deals with the Fed behind the door. That's why the financial crisis that happened They knew what they were doing, man. They were trading on mortgage-backed securities that wasn't worth a damn, and falsely inflating the price because they knew when all hell broke loose, they had already talked to the government. They were going to get a bailout. You know, that's like, borrowing $100,000. Going to the casino, betting the money. And then having an insurance policy. So if you hit, you win. If you don't hit and lose all the money, you still win. That's what they were doing. They were basically betting money with an insurance policy. you know, they had no real financial risk, and that's that new system, and it's all powered by the U.S. dollar now. It says just as Ford, Edison, uh, and Krupp had replacement Baker's Brewer and Butcher capitalism's new protagonists were Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, and Lehman Brothers. So those are the bankers I was talking about. So they bring that up. It says while these radical transformations have momentum repercussions, the Great Depression, all of that, they did not alter capitalism's main feature, a system driven by private profit and rent extracted through some market. Now, see the downside of the capitalism, because capitalism is a natural way of economics. It's a natural it's what occurs. It's not a system really. It's just a way of describing a system that naturally occurs in any economic situation, right? But see, the scriptures have laws in place, laws of morality that keep things in place. And see, Esau, because of his system, you can go in and vote. You can vote anything to be legal. All right. So that's basically what happened. They went in. They went into cahoots. They voted wicked things to be illegal, to be legal. Right. Like insider trading. All right. Like being able to bet on the stock, being able to take uh, the deposits of some people and bet it and loan out 10 times as much or 30 times as much with fractional reserve banking. These are laws that they created that allow them to do this. All right. When the scriptures speak against a false balance. So not even the king would have the legal right to do any of this. But see, in Esau society, anything goes as long as they get enough people to vote. All right. Let me skip down. It says then after 2008, everything changed. Ever since the G7 central banks coalesced in April 2009 to use their money printing capacity to refloat global finance, a deeply discontinuity emerged. All right. So that's when the discontinuity happened, meaning the things weren't connected. When the economy's doing good, the stock market should be doing good. When the economy's doing bad, the stock market's been doing bad. But when you look at the stock market, it's been on a steady rise. No matter how well up or down the economy is. And that's why you had back in last year during the lockdowns, you had the biggest gains, some of the biggest gains in stock market history, while 2/3 of all small businesses were being wiped out, record unemployment. All right, because this thing has been decoupled and it's all floated by them printing money. Okay, that false balance, which he spoke about in James the 5th chapter. Okay, it says today, the global economy is powered by the constant generation of central bank money, not by private profit. And that's true. Most of these stock market gains, a lot of it is stock buybacks. It's a company taking money, buying their own stock, and artificially inflating the stock price. All right, not them having a good quarter, a good sales season. All right, you see, and most of the sales that they get, it's also consumer debt. It's people buying shit on credit cards, not out of their bank accounts. The majority of people don't even have $500 in savings. Okay, most people, the vast majority of people, are living paycheck to paycheck. It says, meanwhile, value extraction has increasingly shifted away from markets and onto digital platforms like Facebook and Amazon, which no longer operate like oligopolistic firms. but rather like private fiefdoms or estates. All right. So basically, they're doing what the hell they want to do, and Esau is between them and the government. They're cutting deals. Okay. It says the central bank's balance sheets, not profits, power the economic system. Explains what happened on August 12, 2020. Upon hearing the grim news, financiers thought, great, the Bank of England panicking will print even more pounds and channel them to us. Time to buy shares. All over the West, central banks print money that financiers lend to corporations, which then use it to buy back their shares. Look, just like what I said, whose prices have decoupled from the profits. All right. It says, meanwhile, digital platforms have replaced markets as the locus of private wealth extraction. All right. For the first time in history, almost everyone produces for free the capital stock of large corporations. Wow. So their gains are purely by people just spending money, and it's usually debt. And it's not buying their products; it's buying their stock. It says that is what it means to upload stuff on Facebook or move around while linked to Google Maps. It is not, of course, the traditional capitalist sectors have disappeared. In the early 19th century, many feudal relations remained intact, but capitalist relations have begun to dominate. Today, capitalist relations remain intact, but techno-feudalist relations have begun to overtake them. It says, if I am right, every stimulus program is bound to be at once too large and too small. No interest rate will ever be consistent with full employment without precipitating sequential corporate bankruptcies and class-based politics in which parties favoring capital compete against parties closer to labor is finished. So you can see the whole thing is basically breaking down, and Esau has done this intentionally. As much knowledge and wisdom it takes to run the stock market, to do very complicated uh, feats like derivatives, stocks and bonds, trading them to calculate these algorithms they come up with to determine stock prices. That takes wisdom, man. So you can't tell me that they're not smart enough to see what they're doing is destroying the financial system and utterly corrupting the money. They know. But see, they're doing it intentionally because they know they're going to win. Just like those bankers, they were betting that money in 2008 because they knew no matter what, they were going to win. They had a bailout. That's what Esau's doing to the entire money supply. All right. The entire thing. This is Job 5 and 12. It says, let me see, should I read up? I'll just read 5 and 12. It says, he disappointed the devices of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. This is talking about the Most High. All right. He's going to disappoint this thing, man. All right. But see, Esau's going to take a lot of you niggas with him before the Most High comes up and starts writing everything and putting a stop to this whole thing. A lot of you two-third niggas, all you two-third niggas are going to die. All right. And all of you other nations in America, if you're here when this shit hit the fan, you're going to get, you're in for a huge judgment. All right. And the rest of you nations overseas are going to get judged as well too. Not as harshly because there'll be a remnant of you, of course, to work off that slavery that you owe. All right. It says he taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the froward is carried headlong. So this craftiness that they came up with, man, they're getting ready to be ensnared by the whole thing, because it's written that out of all this wickedness and craftiness that he's doing, see, Esau's gonna betray each other. They're gonna betray themselves. The scriptures speak about in Revelation 17, these shall hate the whore. All right. The 10 horns, which is the rest of Europe, they're going to hate the whore, which is America. All right. Revelation 17 and 16, it says, and then the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, we went over what the beast was earlier, it says, these shall hate the whore. The whore is America, which is part of the beast, but it's also a separate thing. It says, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. All right. So this was what he means when he says he's gonna disappoint the devices of the crafty. All right. He's gonna take the wise in their own craftiness. All right. And the last precept on this is basically the Obadiah. All right, because we know, and look at that. It says Edom will be humbled. All right, which is very true. Because Esau, you're finished. This is the end of this thing. And if y'all brothers are sincere about this thing, you'll know that what the men of the Lord, the prophets from the apostles and the elders on down have been preaching this whole time, you see this thing to be true. All right. Now, we do our best to go in on these lessons to watch and break things down because it's important. All right. Now to finish the point and ended on this, Obadiah 1 and 2, it says, "Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen; thou art greatly despised." Now the context is this is the Obadiah Salaki. I guess I should just read the first verse. Uh, it says, "The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen." All right. And that ambassador are the Israelites, the prophets, the men of the Lord. Okay. And only great millstone are the ones breaking this thing down correctly, man. You got a lot of false Israelites focused on the wrong thing, focused on lofty titles, being carnal, trying to get women in their congregation. All right. Focused on numbers, YouTube views, and all of this bullshit, man. And not focused on the right thing, which is prophecy. And so we're the ambassadors among the heathen. It says, "Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle." All right, and this ain't talking about us getting carnal. All right, this is talking about us rebuking this devil, I should say. Verse 2, it says, "Behold, I've made thee small among the heathen," talking about Esau. "Thou art greatly despised, and everyone hates you now, even your own people." You got especially these Edomite women, man. These so-called feminists, they're coming against you. Their own men, you know. Straight white males is something that's very, very easy to say. You're easy to demonize. All right. So even your own people despise you. And we know China hates you. Those Russians hate Americans. All right. Other Edomites. It says, "The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high." All right. And that's talking about nobody but you so-called white people. All right. So there is no getting away, go nowhere getting around who you are. Obadiah lays it out quite clear. There's nobody else this describes. All right. And his prophecy has not occurred yet. Okay. It says, "That saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?" All right. And that you have to be of that spirit, of that wicked, prideful spirit to do all the shit that you've done, Esau. Going to Mars, really, for what? You got a island of trash in the ocean the size of Texas, and you're shitting on everything else, destroying the ecosystems, ruining financial markets, destroying the food, and you talking about going to Mars? That's you prideful, man. Hey, the Most High is perfect at making wicked individuals. All right. It says, Obadiah 1 and 4, "Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle," there's a comparison again because we know he's taken the moniker of the eagle. All right. And this goes all the way back from the Greeks to the Romans, all the way to today. Because why? Because one, he likes to exalt himself above everybody else, thinks of himself as higher. All right. He thinks he's got the vision that he can see everything. He's a forward-thinking individual, but it's all carnal. All right. And we know militarily that's where his might and his power is. All right. It says, "If thieves came to thee If robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? In other words, there wasn't enough for you to bankrupt the economy, take all the land, take over the food supply. You still got to go in and try to make people work in perpetuity. You still got to try to reprogram people, take all their data, their information, turn them into slaves. That's what this ultimately is about. This whole MOTB thing is getting ultimate power over the nations. Mainly Jake, the Israelites. He wants us completely destroyed in a dumbed down state, so he can make this futile attempt to try to rule forever, but it's not going to happen. It says, if the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? So you took everything, man. 2 billion acres of land. Esau's using 10, 15% of it. All right. And for no reason, man. Wicked as hell. And that wasn't enough. You gotta post up Navy destroyers and in the Gulf and aircraft carriers in the South China Sea, and we all have a military all over the place. Nothing is enough for you, all right? This man's insatiable, pursuant to Habakkuk 2 and 5. It says, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up through the men of the Lord? These scriptures are coming out, all right? And it says in Jeremiah 4, 9, and 10, Esau will be made bare. How is he going to be made bare? Through this truth. And article after article is coming out. Video after video of being coming out, destroying you devils. And it's not just the Israelites. It's not just the prophets, man. Your own people are coming out against you. UFOs and chariots are popping up at a rate so alarming you can't keep up with them. Esau basically had to come out and try to get in front of it. Now you're still trying to control the narrative, but these things, these hidden things, are being sought out now. And see, the elect, the few that haven't woken up yet, they're gonna start to seek out the real truth. All right, they're gonna wake up out of Christianity. They're gonna snap out of this whole this spell of witchcraft of voting and left to right and Republican and blah blah blah. They're gonna wake up out of this, man, and they're gonna seek the truth. And the truth that's been here the whole time, eventually they're gonna come into this thing, man. You know. And once all of the elect are sealed, that's a wrap, baby. We out of here. But this was the main point. Obadiah 1 and 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. All right. The Russians that made deals with you, China that made deals with you, India, all of Europe, your so-called allies. All right. That don't produce anything. They're all getting rich off of you. Okay. And once you're destroyed, the Most High is going to send his hunters in there. We're going to take the rest of this world, man. The whole planet is ours, okay? It says, they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There's no understanding in them. And because this whole economic system, it's all rooted in pride. I'll just say that. Because for you to think that the other nations are going to just let you give them fake money for year after year after year, and then they're actually going to give you a real asset for that fake money without their own plan to come up, you're sorely mistaken, man. It's a very dumb idea to transfer all your manufacturing over to China. What did you think was going to happen? You don't produce anything but weapons now, right? And because you're the wicked, you've turned the whole world against you. So now those are not even enough. And weapons, the amount of conventional weapons, don't even really matter anymore now that nukes are invented. All right, and that's how this whole thing is going to end. Okay, so this place is utterly destroyed. Techno feudalism is basically here, and what that basically is a code word for is the beast. Okay, spoken about in Revelation. So I know this was a little bit longer than usual, but it was on my spirit.
to go in, because prophecy is the most important thing, man. I love y'all, Akim. The sincere brothers out there that are doing this work in truth and sincerity. Hopefully, y'all brothers were edified. Call halal Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem Rachak Wadash Wa Abad Babal Shalom.